My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and today we have a topic around your daughter is always watching. And I want you to stop for a second and really let this land. Your daughter is always watching you. You're not just the words you say to her, not just the lessons that you teach her. She's watching how you live. She sees you skip your meals. She sees you skip your meals because you're too busy. She sees you grab the coffee instead of breakfast. She sees you sigh when you look in the mirror or tug at your clothes or make those critical comments. She hears you when you say, "I'm fine," when you're actually running on fumes. And you think you're shielding her from it, but you're not. She's learning from you, and learning means to become the woman that she's going to become. Learning that it is normal when it comes to health, self-respect, boundaries. And here's the deal, ladies. If you're always putting yourself last, if you never invest in yourself, if you treat your health like it's optional, she's learning that too. And she's learning what it's like to be a mom, to be a wife, and what a woman is supposed to look like. But here's the thing. One day, she's going to grow up and live her life the way she saw you live yours. And I want you to ask yourself this critical question. If my daughter lived exactly like I do right now, would you be proud of that? Because here's the deal. If the answer is no, it's not too late. It's not too late to change this. And you can show her that taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's truly leadership. That your worth doesn't disappear just because you had kids. That the woman that you are sets boundaries, who invests in her health, who feels strong in her body. And you're a woman who shows up better for everyone because she loved herself first. Your body is the first home your daughter has ever lived in. And we want to make it a place that she is inspired to model and to own her part, because you're not just raising a daughter, you're raising the future woman that she's going to become. So I want to dig into this topic here today because this one is going to be heavy. This one is important. This one is also important for the women who don't have daughters, who have sons, because, sure, am I picking on mothers and daughters? For sure, but you're emulating what they look for in a partner, in your sons, for their partner. And you're also, even if you don't have children, listen to me. This message is still for you because as a woman, you are a role model, you are a mentor, you are someone to some woman out there. I know multiple women that I highly look up to that never had any children. And for whatever reason, right? I think we all have different reasons, different choices that we personally make, different situations. And so this message is for every woman out there, because even if you don't have a daughter or a son, you have someone who is looking up to you, whether you realize it or not. So your daughter is always watching, so is your son, and so is the other women around you. And we say that our daughters are always watching, but it's not just what we say. They're watching how you move, how you act, how you feel, how you respond, how you navigate life. And they're learning how to treat themselves just by watching how we treat ourselves. Now, when I was putting this topic together, I was just like, well, Arin, don't you just sound like you got it all put together? But I don't, guys. And that's the beautiful thing about this is even myself, I'm like, damn, I could be such a better mom. But guess what? This is my first rodeo, so it's all good. But that's where I want to share it with you guys ladies, is that we're all learning and growing. But I want to bring this to your awareness, because if you're like me and you're sitting here going, damn, I could have been a better mom, guess what? It's never too late. It's never too late to say, dang. I remember multiple times, I actually just had this conversation with my husband this morning, and I was like, man, do you remember when we were going through all that crap with selling our house back to the builder? And I said, do you remember how young Liv was? Now, she learned to walk in that house. And, I don't know, I feel differently some days about that, but it is what it is, right? But I remember how stressed out I was. I remember how not a good mom I was. I remember how sleep deprived I was, having 2 babes under 2, and I was just about smoked. Okay. So, and I also remember, I will never forget this. This has absolutely nothing to do with my topic here today. But I remember our daughter, I was literally in the kitchen, and it was like a really cool open concept living room, dining room, kitchen. And I remember being in the kitchen, and I remember that little son of a gun couldn't even walk, but she could walk. But she literally, I turned the other way for like 3 seconds, and that little sucker was all the way up, not on the chair, but on the top of the tabletop, standing, clapping, and so proud of herself. And I was like, OMG, little girl, what are you doing to me? And I remember never having a baby gate, because she would just knock him down and go up the stairs anyways. So I was like, well, you know what? We'll figure this out. So here's the deal. Your daughter is watching, and it's never too late for us to really get a handle on ourselves, because they are learning from you every step of the way, whether we like this or not. And so when you're skipping meals, you're living on coffee, and you're running on fumes, all this is going to show her is the self-neglect, and that this is normal. The other thing that I talk to women on a daily basis is our language. And when we look in the mirror, what do we say? How many times have you gone into the dressing room? I have done this a multitude of times, and you've gone in the dressing room, particularly jeans shopping, and you've put the jeans on in front of your daughter, sitting in the dressing room, and what did you say? Okay. Now, this doesn't mean muffle it. This doesn't mean, fake it, right? Like, oh, I look great. And you're like, I really don't. But it takes us having the awareness and the understanding of our language to say, dang, I could really take care of myself better. Instead of cutting ourselves down and saying, negative things about our thighs, our legs, our butt, whatever, right? We can say things that are more towards what we want. So we say, gosh, I could really take care of myself. And you know what? These jeans would probably look pretty smoking. And so when we talk negatively, all we're doing is teaching her that the self-criticism is just part of being a woman, that women are just highly critical. I remember just hearing like, oh, nothing looks good on me. Just like, oh, well, I'm just not one of those pretty girls. Or I just remember hearing so many, and this wasn't necessarily from my mom, but just women around, my friends, my girlfriends, like just all the negative self-chatter. Oh, I hate my nose. Oh, I hate this feature. And I remember as a kid just kind of like, well, I guess I don't like my teeth, which I had pre-braces. I had teeth that were, so thank God for braces, right? But, I guess as a kid, you don't realize that that's, our son has identical teeth to me. And like, he has no clue that they should, or not even should, that they could be all together. But you know what? Hey, we'll navigate that. But I just think it's interesting. So we have to also understand that our daughter is seeing us put ourselves last. Okay. And we're also teaching her this noble sacrifice that we always come last, that we don't take care of ourselves, that our self-worth is tied to our sacrifice. I have seen this woman after woman after woman. So why putting yourself last is actually hurting more than it's helping. Because here's the deal. We think it's noble, but it teaches our daughter that her needs will never be as important as others. And it creates this cycle where she may grow up believing that being burnt out is normal. This is something that myself, I don't think our daughter would be old enough to really take this in. But there was a point in time not too long ago where I burned myself out. I got to the point where I couldn't do one more Zoom. I was just, I took way too many calls and I had things set up way differently than how I do things now. But we do it, right? We do it because we're serving and we're giving to others. Thankfully, I've gotten a hard dose of, hey girl, if you don't step back and move yourself forward in a different capacity, you're going to burn yourself out. And burning yourself out, listen, that's a disservice to every woman that you could potentially help. And so the good thing about all of this and why I share this topic so passionately is we don't have to be perfect, ladies. But we need to have the awareness. But more importantly, we need to start modeling the behavior that we actually want, that we want for ourselves and consequently what we want for our daughters. So if your daughter is grown, here is the deal. It is never too late to model the woman that you want her to see, okay? But at the end of the day, you're doing it for you. So we can't pour into her life if our cup is completely empty, and she will feel this. Our kids feel it when you are exhausted and tired. How many times have your kids say, hey, you want to come play with me? And you've said, no, not right now. Mommy's too tired, right? I've been guilty, absolutely guilty. So we have to think about how taking care of yourself will literally change everything. And this isn't just a mom to a daughter thing. This is a woman to woman thing. When you take care of yourself, I will tell you that 99% of your problems become a whole lot simpler. And I'll go into this. So how you take care of yourself will change everything, because this is showing not only your daughter that your health is a priority, but it's not an afterthought. Also, when you take care of yourself, here's what it models. It models confidence, boundaries, self-respect. I just had an amazing conversation with a woman that my heart went out to her because she's in an extremely stressful situation. But I told her if she takes control of her health and she gets her confidence back, and when she looks in the mirror, she sees who she wants to see, I guarantee her life will come full circle. I guarantee things in her marriage will be different, whichever direction she decides to go. I guarantee that job that she's been looking for, that career that she cannot wait to have, is waiting for her. I guarantee that the doors of opportunity that she wants, the no more days of stress and frustration. And it's because she chose to take care of herself, because that's then the woman that she is mirroring back to this world. And here's the thing. When we teach our daughter that it's okay to invest in herself, can you imagine the things she will do? Can you imagine when you paused and you heard, maybe from me, how much my coaching program is, and you were quickly to say, no, I can't afford that. But how many times will you afford that thing for your kid? Now, listen, I get it all day long, but I actually don't. And the reason why I personally don't is because I've had to invest in myself so many times, to the point where, it's not that I don't care, right? That's not it. But I'm able to hand over my credit card because I believe in myself, because I have proof that when I invest in myself, this always comes back tenfold. There has been very, very few investments that I have made that I didn't pull something, or there wasn't a learning lesson, or even a positive ROI, return on investment, that has come from it. So we have to teach our daughters that it is okay to invest in ourselves. An investment may not just be money, it's time, it's energy. We want to inspire her to choose relationships and careers that support her well-being. I can tell you so many times when I coach a woman in my coaching program, it is fascinating to me how many women find new opportunities. They get pay raises, they get this urge to start their own business. It never ceases to amaze me, but it shouldn't, right? Because when you've invested in yourself, when you start feeling good in your own skin, it is wild how many cool opportunities. But here's another trick, and it's really not a trick, but I inspire you to think of life differently. I inspire you to design things, to consider things that you've never considered before, to go for things that normally you wouldn't have. But it's amazing when you feel so good in your own skin, when you feel confident. It's amazing the doors that start to open because of who you're giving off to this world. So again, it's in your best interest to invest in yourself. But again, show your daughter that you're worth the time, the money, and you see what changes. So let's think about the real legacy that you want to leave. So your body is the first environment that your daughter has ever lived in, and your habits will shape the environment that she creates for herself. It's always very interesting to me when you see daughters having very similar habits or having very similar just behaviors, right? And it was something for myself that, I love my mother dearly, and it's had to come full circle. I was so challenged with just how she chose to take care of herself, but I also understand that this was modeled to her as well. And so for me, it was very much a generational stop where I was like, you know what, this is my genetics. And I do understand, these cards are stacked, but that doesn't define me. And that doesn't mean that I can't do things a little bit differently. I also saw my mother run a very successful flower shop. And I saw her working with her customers. I saw her, just creating some of the most special and unique floral arrangements. I remember, really my mom's specialty, and I'll have to ask her if she thinks this is true, but she was really, really good when people were grieving. And growing up in a small town, she was kind of that go-to florist that, so she had her work cut out for her. I saw her on every holiday, just work her tail off. I saw her go in on Sundays. And so I did see a certain work ethic that I do believe shaped me. Now, do I feel you can work smarter, not harder type of thing? Yes. But it's cool when you can see like, man, I know I got this. But what I got from her is that care and that concern and that detail of understanding intimately what someone is going through and picking up on those small nuances. I remember when she would create some of the like casket sprays and some of the different arrangements that are traditionally at someone's funeral. And I remember her putting in very personalized things, like if they were a farmer and they had specifically like an Alice Chalmers tractor or a John Deere tractor or international, she would specifically go find that at, the convenience store, or we didn't have Walmart, but like she would go find that and put it in there. And it was just one of the coolest, just small touches that when the family came to see that, I mean, that just, it made them smile, and that was worth everything. And so we watch, right? And I know from growing up, I saw that. I saw my parents give tenfold to our church and things that they felt strongly about, that they set aside money, that this was what was important to them. I think to this day, the hymnals that are at the church that I grew up in, my parents provided, which was just really cool. And what I kind of took from that is leaving your stamp. If you're able to provide in different ways, and when you have a successful business and you have the extra income, it allows you to give back tenfold, that you don't have to be this martyr just because, money's the root of all evil. Well, actually, money can allow you to do some of the coolest things that we can do for people in this world. So when you have abundance, guess what? You can be abundant to others. And it was pretty cool. So remember that you are the environment. You start by carrying her in the womb, and you start by nurturing her just from an egg, right? Like our bodies are pretty freaking cool. And she's going to remember how you showed up, not how clean the house was or how much you sacrificed, but she's going to remember these nuances that made you tick, that made you special, that made you not the perfect woman, but just made you unique. I remember calling my mom literally the Walmart greeter, because I was like, yo, mom, we can't go anywhere without you like talking to literally everyone. Now, I grew up in a small town, so like you knew literally everyone. And it was just one of those things where I was like, yo, Walmart greeter, let's roll. But it was just so funny because she just was Chatty Cathy. Her name is Kathy. So it all works. But I digress, right? So the challenge for my moms, my women listening to this message is ask yourself, if my daughter lived her life exactly how you're living yours today, right now, would you want that for her? And here's the thing. If that's a no, it's just time to change. That's all. Okay? It's not woe is me. It's not beat yourself up. It's not I suck. It's none of these negative words. It's, hey, I care enough to listen to a podcast like this that inspires me and motivates me to be someone I honestly maybe don't even feel is possible. But, this chick here on the airwaves is saying I can, and maybe you can borrow my belief, and you can borrow my belief to the point that this becomes who you are, because taking care of yourself isn't selfish. This is leadership, ladies, and we need more leaders in this world. Okay? You're not just raising a daughter. You're raising the future woman that she will become. So when this message hits home and you're sitting here saying, damn, Arin, I got to take care of myself. Okay. When you ask that question, if my daughter lived her life exactly like mine right now, would I want that for her? I answered no. And here's what I want to say to you. When this message is tugging at you and saying, shit, I need to do something. Why don't you do something? Preferably reach out to me. Let's jump on a call. This is how my process works. I like to jump on a Zoom call. I want to understand, where are you at today? What all have you experienced? Where do you feel stuck? What do you think your opportunities are? And then I am going to give my professional stance. I've been helping women for 17 years. I got asked a really cool question just today, and she was like, do you call yourself like a fitness coach or like, what would you really? And I was like, oh man, yeah, you're right. And this is a client of mine. And she was like, you're so much more than just a fitness coach. And I was like, I really am. And so I'm really a change agent. I encourage you to change your life. Okay. Yes, through the vehicle of health and wellness. And when you get in my program, are you going to lose weight? Of course. But I'm also going to challenge you to change who you are. The woman that's gotten you here, she's awesome. But guess what? There's so much more on the other side of this. Yes, we got to get the weight off your body. And I know as a byproduct, your confidence is going to shoot through the roof. You're going to be strong, not only physically, but mentally. When you show up to life, it's going to be different. So my encouragement to you as you're listening to this and contemplating, can I really invest in myself? Ask yourself, what is it costing you to not invest in yourself? How many fads have you tried? How many booty bands have you bought? How many pills, powders, shakes, potions have you purchased, right? And ask yourself, can I really afford not to invest in a coach? So I know you're contemplating this, and I want you to understand that not only is your daughter watching, so is all the other women around you. Be the woman in your sphere of influence that changes her life, because here's what I know, and I'm going to choke up saying this. When you change your life, you're going to change someone else's life. When you change your life, you're going to rub off on someone else. When you're at the dinner party and you're choosing to eat a different portion, when you're at your friends and they ask you what you've been up to and you're looking hot as hell, your clothes fit, you're maybe wearing things that maybe you wouldn't wear before, when you're walking around in that bikini and your friends are like, girl, what have you been doing? You will rub off on them. Not only does that feel good, right? It feels good when people notices, but that's going to give that woman permission to say, dang, I should probably do something with my health. So-and-so just did it. Well, I guess if she can do it, I can do it too. So be that inspiration, be that motivator for someone else, but it has to start with you. So I hope this one hits home. As always, you can reach out to me on any social media. It's just Arin, Arin, last name Lindauer, Lindauer, and just shoot me a message. Let's connect. I'd love to hear how this podcast hits. And remember, the women in your life, especially your daughters, are always watching.